Thank you, sir. Good morning, everyone. I'll be talking about conjunctival root levator resection. So, as we all know, there are two approaches to levator resection. One is the anterior or skin approach, and the other one is posterior or conjunctival approach. Conjunctival root levator resection is an excellent procedure. There is no scar mark on the skin, and it is associated with less post-operative reaction, faster healing as compared to skin approach LPS resection. But the only problem is that it should be done by an experienced surgeon because the anatomy is all upside down. The beauty of this procedure is that you can combine with the adjustable sutures. So when to do conjunctival approach? In any situation you can conjunctival approach in congenital ptosis, but it is preferred in moderate congenital simple ptosis with fair to good LPS action, where we want to take out a small to moderate levator muscle. Other indications are mild ptosis and residual ptosis, where there are more chances of overcorrection since we can adjust by this route. So one can try using this approach in these two indications. So there are certain limitations of conjunctival approach in young children. They are usually not cooperative for suture adjustment, so there is no point doing conjunctival approach. Then there can be suture related corneal risk, especially if you are passing full thickness tarsal sutures. Sometimes there can be less working space, and definitely it takes more time than the external approach. And in severe ptosis cases where we plan to resect say more than 22 mm, sometimes there can be difficulty. Then if you plan to excise the skin, it cannot be done if you use conjunctival approach. So the aesthetic goals are the same as for any ptosis surgery, that is we want symmetrical eyelid position, eyelid crease, fold and matching eyelid contour. Functional goals are basically we want clearance of visual axis, we want improved superior visual field, adequate eyelid closure and proper blink mechanism. Accurate preoperative evaluation is very important, especially you should look for the amount of ptosis, amount of LPS action and position of lid crease. Interaction with parents is very important, and they should be explained that ideal results cannot be obtained. An explanation of the complications is also very important. The need for resurgery can be there, and informed consent should be taken. The amount of resection is same as we do in the external approach levator resection. So it depends on the amount of ptosis and the LPS action. Like for moderate ptosis, you resect around 14 to 22 mm depending on the LPS action. And in severe ptosis, generally we have to resect more than 22 millimeters, especially if the LPS is not very good. Then the amount of resection can also be judged on the basis of intraoperative lid position and the LPS action. So if the LPS action is poor, then it's better to leave the lid at superior limbus. If it is fair, then 2 millimeter below limbus, and if the LPS is good, then 3 to 5 below limbus, because we expect some elevation of the lid in the post-operative period. So as I already told you, the approaches are external and the posterior or the conjunctival approach. I always combine this with the adjustable sutures. So little bit about the intraoperative technique. So how to decide for the eyelid crease? You have to match this with the other eyelid crease. The primary crease you have to check, which is the fold, and the same 3 marks they are given on the lid surface. As shown here in the picture, and very important that it should be symmetrical to the other eye, and through these marks basically at the end of the surgery, thickness matrix sutures they should come out, so that you get a proper matching lid crease and lid fold. Conjunctival approach, it provides symmetrical eyelid crease in Indian population, where usual eyelid crease height is between 5 to 9 mm. But it is difficult in cases where the lid crease or the fold is very high, or it's not there, or a higher or a very lower eyelid crease. As in this patient, this side is the normal lid crease is very high. It's around 14 millimeter from the lid margin, and this is after the surgery. So taking out the suture so high is very difficult, and it's very difficult on the skin surface, especially if the lid fold is very lower down. I do this surgery under general anesthesia or local anesthesia. Local anesthesia, I prefer giving frontal nerve block. These are some important steps which I'll be showing in the video also, so I think I can skip these steps. This is important. This is towards the end of the surgery. Here I want to show that these three metric sutures have been passed, which starts from the tarsal, and this is the levator muscle over here. This is the levator muscle. These are the three sutures, and this is the conjunctiva, and this is how it comes out on the skin surface. I use adjustable suture, so it's better to keep one end longer than the other, and I'll be showing this in the video. This is conjunctival root with adjustable suture I'm doing here. You can see the three marks, genital, and with moderate ptosis. So now I'll be talking about Silicone frontalis sling. We know that the frontalis sling surgery is indicated in congenital ptosis with poor LPS action. Frontalis sling surgery uses several surgical techniques and many different materials, out of which autogenous fascia lata is still the material of choice, and amongst the synthetic materials it is the silicone sling which is mostly. So why silicone sling is a choice? Because the material itself is quite stretchable, it has lid closure, and it reduces chances of corneal error. And if revision surgery is indicated, then we can easily perform because it does not integrate with the tissues, unlike a fascia lata, and it has a good biocompatibility. It takes less operating time and no donor site morbidity is there, and most important that it is cheap and easily available. So if we go to the surgical techniques using any sling material, the two popular techniques are the double triangle described by Crawford and pentagon described by Fox. I prefer double triangle technique, reason being that it lifts the lid at 3 points, so there is better control of the eyelid contour in comparison to the pentagon where you are lifting at 2 points only. Amongst the different materials, if we see, it's the autogenous fascia lata which is still the preferred material, but there are studies on other autogenous materials also, like palmaris longus tendon, temporalis fascia. The synthetic material, as earlier we used to use polyester and PTFE sutures, but nowadays silicone rod has become the most popular synthetic material. Coming back to the technique, there are two methods. One is the closed technique and the other is the open technique. And if you see in the picture here, this basically this one is the closed technique where you give supralash 3 stab incisions in double triangle, and this is actually more popular technique where you use the closed technique, reason being that it has less operating time and it is therefore probably the preferred technique. But the open technique where you give the lid incision like this gives us better cosmesis in terms of lid fold, lid crease, and even the position. So I prefer open technique in patients, especially unilateral ptosis patients, where I want to match the lid crease and lid fold also. And the other advantage of this technique is that you can fix to the tarsal surface the suture material. Though it takes slightly more operating time, but overall cosmesis is better with open technique. These are few important steps of the open technique. You can see you have to give the skin incision, expose the tarsus without much dissecting in the pre-tarsal plane, because your suture material is passed in the pre-tarsal plane. Then you can fix it to the tarsal surface, and this is how you basically form the screen crease. In this you have to pass the suture from the LPS or the tarsus, so that you at the end you get a nice lid fold along with the lid contour. As I already said that I prefer open technique, double triangle in unilateral patients, reason being I want a better symmetry of the lid fold also. This is another patient where only one eye was operated, so you can see the post-operative symmetry of the lid crease also. This is a very short video showing only the important points of the open technique, double triangle, using suture fixation. It's not opening. So you can see that the skin incision has been given, And the silicone rod I have placed on the sling needle, and you can see I am going in the pre-tarsal plane and taking out in a double triangle fashion. And you have to be sure that it does not perforate the tarsus, and this is how it is fixed using non-absorbable 6-0 nylon suture. All 4 sling material you have to fix with the tarsus. Rest steps are almost the same. This is the closed technical triangle where you basically give a supralash 3 stab incisions, and then you pass the silicone, and you can see that this is the kind of lid fold which there is usually bunching, full appearance of the lid. Lid fold is very near to the lash line. This is a bilateral ptosis where the closed technique was done, and you can see that the position of the lid crease and plus the bunching of the tissues you can see here. But it can be used in bilateral ptosis patient because the operating time is less. This was one article I wanted to share. This was published in 2014 in Orbit journal, where the authors, they had compared the open versus closed method, and they found that the open technique gives a better results in terms of symmetry of the lid position as well as lid fold. So complications or limitations of silicone sling, if you see, few limitations are inherent to the procedure itself. So like in this patient, you can see the lag of thalamus, which you have to explain to the patient and take consent. But then usually this lag of thalamus, it diminishes with time, and sometimes it can remain permanent also. Lid lag, another problem which patients have to face, but this also diminishes with time. Then coming to complications, the commonest complication of sling surgery is recurrence of ptosis. And probably because of this, the autogenous fascia lata is still considered the ideal material, because the recurrence of ptosis is almost nil if you use the autogenous fascia lata. With silicone rod, the recurrence is around 50%, and this generally occurs because of the migration of the material, sling material, slippage of the knot, loss of strength of sling material, and chronic edema. This is just a review of literature showing what is the recurrence of ptosis using the silicone rod. So you can see it's quite variable, varies from 4% to 44%. It also depends on the duration of follow-up by the authors. Other complication in sling surgery as such is quite rare, around 5 to 10% only you get to see. And these other complications are suture granuloma, exposure, infection, entropion, etc. This is a child with suture granuloma. And this is a child where you can see there is extrusion of the sling. So you basically reposit it back and suture the skin. And sometimes there can be loss of lid crease as well as lateral droop, as you can see here. So these patients, they require a resurgery. Then sometimes on table you can have entropion, so it's better to correct there and then. But in post-operative period, if it's there, you can wait for some time because it can subside once the edema has subsided. This was another study which I wanted to share. This was a comparative study between the silicone rod and preserved fascia lata. I could not find even a single study where the silicone rod was compared with the autogenous fascia lata. So the preserved one as such will not have very good outcome, and in this study the silicone rod was better than the preserved fascia lata. This was another study. This was just to highlight that still there is a lot of research going on to find the ideal synthetic material. This article was published in 2013, and this I wanted to show because in this authors, they found 0% recurrence rate using PTF material. So this is just a video showing how the patient present and how the appearance after the surgery. This video is courtesy Dr. Manish Mahavir, my thesis candidate. Thank you.